I guess I'd like to help anyone that is experiencing this and just help them build resilience, basically. I feel like, yeah, with resilience, whether it's mental or physical, it doesn't really matter. Like, just little bits at a time. I just want to help people very simply just build resilience and live the best life that they can possibly with the cards that they've been dealt.
That's Will Plagakis. Around a year ago, he lost his father Stalios to suicide. Will's dad was always his hero, and as he grew into a man, he was his best friend too.
I felt like I actually got to know him. Like, I feel like before it was just him telling me, you know, how to do life and stuff like that. But then he started to, once I became a man, he started to tell me about all like his like hectic stories from his past.
Stalios endured decades of pain and mental distress caused by fibromyalgia that Will felt hopeless to help with.
It was just like, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, man. It was just not him. Like, I was like, what is happening?
His death has had an enormous impact on his son, but it was his life that's made Will the man he is today. Welcome to Young Blood, an award-winning podcast on a mission to make the mental health of young men a top priority. My name's Callum McPherson, I'm a journalist, and this is our platform to open up and share stories of what we've been through because we're not alone. Let's do it. Trigger warning, if you find anything spoken about in today's episode distressing, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Will, how did you view your dad growing up?
Like a superhero, man. But he was like 6 foot.
Oh yeah, I used to see him in the gym. He was like a huge unit.
And he was, jacked and very strong and stoic. And I just always viewed him as like nothing could ever, you know, bring him down, because he went through like a lot of adversities, even when I was alive, and would always get up and just keep moving and stuff. So yeah, I've never really seen him fall until like, you know, the last year when he started to fall. And he always had this thing, because like our heritage is like from Sparta, and he always used to say like, you know, you never back down, or you never give up, because, you know, like, yeah, come from like this. And, you know, that was a bit of cultural strength for us. And yeah, I don't know. It was just, yeah.
A warrior bloodline.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I always just saw him as like a hero, man. So
yeah.
It was good.
And how did it feel to be his son when you were a kid?
I felt like a lot of the time like lucky, because like I always had this person to fall back on, like if something was going to happen, even, no matter what it was. Like, it was always, I just always felt safe, man. Like, when I was at home, I never didn't feel safe when he was there. Like,
was he ever scary? Because he's a pretty imposing guy. And
like, to me,
a Spartan. Yeah. Did you ever feel scared of him?
Only the times when he would lose it over pretty serious stuff. He would, like one of the times when I was, because like him and mum, like mum is from English background and his background is from Greece, and they had very different upbringings. And, you know, my papa was pretty much raised himself, like he was a shepherd at 12, living in caves and stuff. And so, you know, bringing that, you could imagine the childhood my dad had, so it was very hard. And so I guess some of that came through. But mum, on the other hand, was like, you know, be kind, not right, like this.
Okay.
And so when I was bullied in year 9, and I wasn't standing up for myself because I didn't want to get in trouble to be kind, not right.
Your parents had different approaches.
He had different approaches, and he got sick of seeing like all this spit on my jumpers and stuff.
Because you were naturally more like your mum as a kid, like
quieter, more reserved? I'd say so, yeah. But then he said like, he
told you to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, he like, because this went on for like 2 terms, so this is just a very short version of it. But he said like, you know, cause to answer your question of if I've ever been scared, he threw me on the ground one time, said like, if I don't stand up for myself at school, like he'll hit me when I'm home. And it's like, I'm fucking more scared of him than at school.
That's pretty.
So then when I went,
scary parenting right there.
Yeah, but like at the same time, like he was still, in hindsight, like in year 9, I was like, oh, what a dickhead for doing that. Like, but in hindsight, I'm actually grateful, because like since then I've like always, I guess, held myself, and I haven't ever been in a situation like that, because I haven't ever let it escalate to that point. So I've never really been, you know, picked on since then. And I think that was
he didn't want you to get walked.
Yeah, I think that was the message he was in his own way, he was trying to convey. So it worked. And like and in hindsight, I do look back and I'm grateful he did it, because otherwise, who knows? Yeah.
You'll probably deliver that message in a slightly nuanced way
probably in a better way.
To your kid, but I understand the premise behind it.
Yeah.
And he lives with fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain disease that also affects your sleep, makes you mentally distressed as well. How aware were you of that as a young kid?
Very.
Did you see that a lot?
Yeah.
Did he show it? Or you tried to hide it, or?
He had a mental breakdown when I was in year 2, and I didn't really know what was happening. Or maybe I was in year 3, but somewhere around that age. And he was suffering from severe lack of sleep because of how much pain he was in. So he was in pain 24/7, to the point where he was having to crawl to the toilet. And I didn't know at the time, but he had to get off work for a little bit. But then he ended up still working through it because he didn't want to use all his sick leave and stuff like that. So it got like, I was very aware, because it went for a few years where I didn't even see him laugh. And I remember when we watched the movie White Chicks and he laughed for the first time. It was just weird. Like, I was like, hadn't seen him laugh for so long, because he was just always like in pain.
Did he talk about it?
Yeah. Because of his height, his body was short, but his legs were really long. So the work desks and stuff, they weren't really made for his dimensions, and so it made his back, like, over the years just get super, super cramped. And then obviously, like, the gym, that makes you tight as well. So the two didn't probably go well.
So was that their best guess for what caused it?
It was mostly his desk at work. Yeah. That's why he got on work cover and all of that stuff. So yeah, it got to him real bad, because it lasted for about, pretty much until the end it was lasting. Like, the last 2 years it kind of calmed down a bit, but he was getting 3 hours sleep for like 15 years, and that caused him to get cardiac myopathy, where his heart just started failing, and he had to be put on the table, and he died on the table, I think, twice. So he was under all this stress, and he was also the person that was making the money for the house as well. And
then with his view on life of being stoic and being the Spartan, and this incredibly built provider who's being brought down by this condition that he doesn't have control over, that must have been really hard for him to cope with mentally. You probably appreciate that now in terms of how that made him feel about himself, the fact that he'd built himself into this massive structure and he had this attitude about life, but yet he was plagued by this condition every day.
Yeah, it was. He was good in the sense as well, though, that he always said not to make excuses. So even through all of that, he would still be working his full-time hours, and then he would come home, spend time with Victoria and I, and help us with our homework. Then when he'd put us to bed, then he'd train for 2 hours, and that's all on 3 hours sleep. He didn't stop, man. It's not like he neglected us because he was sick. He still was, he was still there the whole time.
Did you see him enjoying life? Did he enjoy
not in primary school, man. Not much in primary school. If he had a good workout, he'd be a bit happier, but watching, spending family time, when it was just us, on a Saturday night, he'd be happy, but the rest of Monday to Saturday was a very big grind.
Because he was just in so much pain.
Yeah, but then in high school he started to get better a little bit, started to get happy again. But he battled with this stuff for a long time.
What was it like for you to see that all the way through your life? Because you would have normalized it, I guess.
Yeah. I used to find it weird when I went to friends' houses, and I remember that, seeing their parents and stuff, and how it's there's not suffering and stuff like that. I used to think, I normalized it. I definitely normalized it.
It seemed like others just had it so much easier.
In the sense of their dads, and how that's because dad, at the end, it's not his fault, but he couldn't when I was young, we couldn't go to the park and kick the ball a lot and stuff, and he had a real big regrets for that because he was just in that much pain, man. And that does stuff to you, because his biggest values were family, and so it all fed into the end demise, I think, from over many years.
He still went to the gym all that time.
Yeah, because it helped him to. I think he would have been gone a long time ago if he didn't have the gym. I think it helped his emotional state and everything like that big time. And it was the only hobby he kept for himself. The rest he was like very selfless. You know, sometimes if we'd have a family holiday and the house needed to be like painted or something rather than getting it painted, so he would sometimes just forgo the holiday and just like paint it, like, you know, just like, always putting himself last.
Yeah, my dad's always been painting stuff whenever he had holidays or a bit of time off. He finds like some job to do and he's just doing that the whole time. But what was his take on the meaning of life?
It changed. At the beginning, it was like, because obviously his parents, when they migrated here, they had they didn't have a lot of money, and so they had to work for their money, and then they got money, but their philosophy was like, I guess, you know, you got to, you know, provide for your family and, you know, do the best that you can and not, you know, be wasteful and things like that. So I guess Dad originally indoctrinated those views and thought, you know, I got to get a house, you know, provide a roof, you know, be secure financially and then be there for family. But at the end, he changed because he had like paid off his house in the eastern suburbs, like back when he was 28, which isn't like a small house. Like it was decent, but he sacrificed everything to do that. Like he didn't, you know, go traveling, didn't really have like, you know, heaps of life experiences like that. And he said at the end, he's like, you know, you're told like when you're growing up, you know, get a house, settle down, you know, pay it off as soon as you can. But it's like, I had it paid off since I was 28, but it, you know, it didn't make me happy.
So he regretted missing out on some of those
experiences? Yeah, he wished he did more, especially with us, and more enriching life experiences, whether it's traveling or just getting out. And, you know, because experiences cost money, man. So, well, not all of them, but a lot do anyway. So he wished he capitalized on those a lot more and didn't stress so much about money, I would say, were his biggest ones. Yeah.
That must have rubbed off on you.
Yeah, has now, big time.
How did your relationship develop as you became a young man, sort of from when you started training in the gym together to like early 20s? Because you became more like friends, right?
Yeah, so he was a very hands-on dad, like very hands-on. He'd help with like homework. He would, you know, he was very vocal. Like that was one thing I was really grateful for. Like he was very vocal. Like he would openly say when he's made mistakes in life and how they've affected him, and he would be telling me that all the way from, you know, year 8 onwards. Like don't do this, like try to avoid this stuff. But when I would make mistakes, he also wouldn't judge me for it, which was really good because it developed trust, and so I could come to him, you know, and tell him a lot of things, where I feel like a lot of my friends like would have to kind of conceal things from their parents. But with me, I was always able to say like, yeah, I did this, like I messed up here, and he'd be like, so then he'd be like, oh, we'll fix it this way.
Because he always shared his own stuff.
Yeah, definitely. After high school, about 2 years after high school, we started to become mates, and yeah, it was a very different relationship after that, and it was a lot better. Yeah.
How so? How did it change?
I felt like I actually got to know him. Like I feel like before it was just him telling me, you know, how to do life and stuff like that. But then he started to, once I became a man, he started to tell me about all like his like hectic stories from his past, and, you know, how he thinks like on a daily basis and things like that. So I got to really know the ins and outs. I would know how he thinks, which is good because like when I've gone and seen my psychologist now, one of the exercises he got me to do at the start, which was to help with like catharsis and stuff, was like he'd say, you know, if you like want to have a like pretend like you have a conversation with him in your head, and I guess if you really know a person deeply, you'll kind of know what they'll say to things. So it was really good that we got to have that friendship, because now I can kind of like hold on to the good parts in my mind and have him like live on in my memory, which I'm very, very grateful for. Yeah.
You do that in the gym?
Big time. It's like probably the only time I do it, but yeah. It's like, it's good.
What was the significance of the gym for you guys?
I think like, because I said he had real bad fibro when he was younger, we didn't get to do like the normal stuff of like going to the park and things like that. And so when I got older, and his fibro was getting better a little bit, enough for him to be able to train more and stuff, we both bonded over that, and I just used to see him training because we had the gym in our house. So when I was like, not even 1 year old, I'd be in the gym watching him. So like, it's not, humans like a model from what they see and stuff. And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I think like it was really good for our relationship as well because, because of all his lack of sleep and stuff. And I don't know if you've ever had any back pain, but like, you get a bit agitated when you're sore and stuff like that. But in the gym was always positive stuff. Like we always just tried to keep it positive. So that was really good for our relationship. And I'm really, really grateful for all those times that I did get to have with him, for sure.
How much of your passion for study was influenced by him?
Probably all of it, man. Probably all of it. I just didn't. I used to be a little bit upset in high school because I'd be thinking, how come like he's so, like it's not. I started to realize it's not normal, to be how he was, and I felt really bad because he was suffering so much. And I just wanted to know why, and I think that's what I guess spurred my interest in understanding psychology, and it'd definitely be mostly because of him, I'd say.
But he was an intellectual himself.
He was, yeah. He had one test he got in the top 5% IQ and another one the top 8%, and so he was very, very smart. That was also his detriment though, because like when I was trying to help him at the end, he a king doesn't take advice from his soldiers, number one, but number two, because he was so smart and he'd get things quickly, he just couldn't be told a lot of the time because he'd already like researched stuff himself. Like he was real smart. Like he could if he would proofread my assignment, he would understand like everything as well. So yeah.
But he was stubborn as well.
Very stubborn. Very, very stubborn. Yeah.
So when did his mental health really start to go downhill? Because you said the fibro got a bit better there for a while.
The mental health started to go really downhill once my parents split up. His biggest strength is family. And I think he was able to get through all that stuff he told me because he always had his family with him.
That was his reason.
Yeah. And once Mum left, he was just shattered. And he started to just go, he like stopped training, he stopped taking care of himself. His anxiety went so bad, like it started to get dark like really fast. Like as soon as Mum left, it was about a 2-month period where we thought like she might come back, she might not. But after that, when it was accepted that she wasn't, he even said to me, he's like, this is going to be like the first time you see your old man fall. And I was like, that made me worried because doing like honors in psychology is like a really stressful year. But I said to him, I don't want to do it this year, man. Like I would rather just like, because he's done so much for me, like so much, like couldn't even list how much he's done for me. Like I wouldn't have even gotten into honors if it wasn't for his support and everything like that he gave me. And I'm happy to just take care of you this year and like, I'll just work full time or something, or work and, just be here for you and stuff like that. And
what did he say to that?
He's like, because he's stubborn, man. He didn't want me to.
Yeah.
Like he was like, no, I didn't put all this effort in for you to stop now. Like I'm not going to be the reason for that. I want you to keep going and stuff. And so I ended up dropping one subject to help him. And I would spend like all last year was real hectic because I had that and all I was doing was putting my time into that. But then like, a close mate of mine from primary school, we were best mates in primary school and high school. His dad was like a second dad to me. He passed away. And then I had a mate pass away. Then my mum got through like as soon as my parents split up, then my mum got diagnosed with thyroid cancer and had to get it operated on. And then my dad became suicidal. And so and then I'm doing honors at the same time and it's like,
it's way too overwhelming.
And it's like so much going on. And so I would just be like, after I got all of that stuff, there was a little bit of peace in that area. Then it was just focusing on like dad and study. And that's like literally all I did the entire year. It was just like talking to him, but it would be like every conversation I'm coming back, it'd be, trying to keep him alive because of the conversations. And I saw like one time I came back and he promised me that he'd never do it. And I came back one time and we have like this chin up bar, and there was like a white rope tied like a noose, and I took a photo of it and I sent it to my sister, and I was like, do you think like he's like, you know, thinking about it or whatever? And she's like, nah, surely not. And I went and confronted him. I didn't say about the noose because I didn't want to put like the idea into his head just in case it wasn't. I asked him, I was like, you know, you can't do this. Like, you know, like it hasn't even been a year yet since you've split up. Like things are going to get better, man. Like you just have to, you know, you have to wait it out. And he promised my uncle that he wouldn't do it. But, you know, at the end it was too much for him, man. Like, you know, I think anyone in his position may do that. Like, you know, a lot of people have asked me, like, do you feel angry at your dad, or are you stressed? Do you think he like is selfish? And I don't think he was selfish at all. Like the amount of suffering that guy went through, like it was a battle every day, man. For my whole life, I've seen him. It's like, I don't know how, like if anything, he didn't do it sooner. Like it was a very hard life. And like even his fiber and stuff, that's not even the half of it. Like the other stuff, like I said, I can't really say, but like he suffered like a lot. And so for him to just get me and Victoria to like being self-sufficient and to get us like started in life, like I'm like just so grateful, man. And I said like to everyone, I was like, you know, if you had a crystal ball at the start of your life and you get to see that, you know, at 25, your dad's going to commit suicide, would you still pick that same dad? And I would pick him every single day of the week because of all of the things that he did do for us. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was obviously so engaged and so involved, and has played such a massive part into carving you into who you are today and who you want to be. And there's so many fathers, millions across the world, who have no impact on their children's lives. So for that 25 years that he was there, it sounds like he was...
Yeah, it was like a rich 25 years, so to speak. Yeah.
So that year that you felt like you were trying to keep him alive by being sort of one of the only people that was having contact with him and trying to cheer him up and try to give him reasons to live, on top of all the other stress that you were living with, how did you notice that affect you, like physically and mentally as well? Like, were you so concerned with others that you didn't think about it?
I was not like I was stressed out to the max. Like the only other person I could console with was my uncle, because he was there as well a lot of the time, his brother, and my sister. Like us three were like the main people that were helping him. My sister moved in with her boyfriend earlier, so I was the only one living with him and my missus. But yeah, just being in the environment was just so stressful, man. Like it was insane. Like it would be like 2 or 3 in the morning some nights, and I would just hear this like thump, and he literally would collapse, man, like a few times, and I'd have to like lift him on the couch, and his body's like fully shaking.
Because of his anxiety?
Yeah.
He'd
be saying like, there's no point, like I can't do it anymore, you know, like I just can't do it. And like, you know, I was stressed out that he was going to lose his job because he wasn't going to work, because he was so, you know, depressed and everything. And it was just, it was.
And just seeing
really hectic, man.
Seeing your hero in that
it
position.
was so weird, man, because I always thought he was invincible. It was just like, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, man. It was just not him. Like I was like, what is happening?
And given the way that he saw life and himself, he would have hated being that way too, like more than others.
Yeah, big time.
He would have hated that lack of control and feeling like, you know, he couldn't do anything to get past all the things that he was struggling with. Like, there must have been part of him that felt like he'd failed, even though by all accounts
he did, and he actually said that, and I said, you haven't failed at all, like not one bit. He literally actually said that in pretty much those exact words. And me and Victoria would always tell him that you've been like, with the cards you were dealt, you've been like better than what we could have ever imagined. And like we both told him like how, you know, he was the best dad, and like not to be so hard on himself, but he just,
So what happened with your own anxiety? Your cortisol levels must have been through the roof.
So last year they were really bad, man. Like they were just like, I I was losing hair, stressing out so much. It was, yeah, pretty insane. And I got sick of feeling that way. And so I just started to like research and watch a lot of interviews and things of like people in Syria and the types of problems that they have. And I know like this method wouldn't work for a lot of people, but for me it really did, because, you know, like if you're living like in Adelaide, like it's really easy to just compare yourself. It's like, oh, you know, like, you know your friends and stuff, and if their life happens to be easier at that time. And, you know, I think that can make you feel a bit weak inside, because you start to think a little bit like, oh, why is it like this or whatever. And I didn't like thinking like that. And so I started to look a lot into all these other countries where they have like really, really hard adversities, like much worse than myself. And I started to think like, you know what, like if we're all genetically like 99.9% the same, and these people can still be happy after going through that, then, you know, maybe I can like take a little bit of that and start comparing myself to them instead of comparing myself to the people around me. And I found that has been like one of the biggest helps, because it stopped me from thinking like, oh, you know, poor me. It's like, no, someone's problems are always going to be worse. Sure, there's going to be people that have it better, but there's always also someone that is going to have it worse. So maybe be a little bit grateful for what you have, because like the poor me thing, like with that, is like, oh, you know, that I just didn't like sitting with the anxiety and thinking, because it just made me feel so weak, man. And I started to think like, especially after he did it as well, I started to think, because people would say to me like, they're like, oh, you know, man, like you seem like you're dealing with it well. And I wasn't at all, but I just would always put on a front with, and I still do this to an extent, like, cause
like your dad.
Yeah. And like, and it makes you feel isolated, because you're like, you know, you don't see me, you know, crying when I'm going to sleep and stuff. At the same time, that's why I've kind of avoided seeing people, because I know they come from a place of love and care, and it's really beautiful. And I was overwhelmed from the amount of support that I had from everyone. But when someone is giving me sympathy and stuff, I haven't really liked it, because it makes me go back into that weak kind of feeling
out of control, and
it's just like, and I really don't like that. And so I just started to really think this year, it's like, yeah, these are the cards that have been dealt, and, you know, just being like, making it really blunt, like, I'm here and I haven't committed suicide, which means that is a decision to live. And so I have the will to live. And so if I'm making the active choice to stay alive, why am I going to prolong my suffering? I'm not saying like it's all sunshine and rainbows and I don't care. Like, no, it's really hard, man. But every day I'm like working towards like, you know, like there are things that I can actively pursue to make my suffering less. Like, and I guess reading, like, some people don't like stoicism, but I do.
I was going to say that's a very stoic viewpoint.
Yeah, I do.
Control what you can control.
And a lot of other different therapies and stuff that I've like obviously learned through my psychology degree and stuff like that, I've learned, and I've taken bits and pieces from them that I've found to resonate with me, and I actively apply them, man. And it's a lot of work, but, you know, why would I want to keep living? Like, what's the point of just just accepting that your life is gonna suffer? Like, I know, like, see, like it's like a double-edged sword again, because a lot of like holistic views and other psychologists say that, you know, life is suffering. Like, that's like what Buddhism said, and, you know, there's a lot of other little theories that have spurred on from that. And it's like, I guess to an extent you can say, without being like a negative Nancy, that life is suffering, because, you know, after the age of 35 you'll live the majority of your life, and that's around the age where things start to degenerate. You know, you might experience cancer either yourself or vicariously through someone else. So you're going to see, you're going to experience loss.
More things go wrong.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you can't have an enriching and fulfilling life in between that. And I think like...
It's like, what are you going to choose to focus on?
Yeah, exactly, man. So I started to think, rather than, you know, either living in my mind of the memory of what was, of like, oh, when I had, you know, dad was there and this was good, or preempting the future and living in my imagination of oh my God, I can't believe I have to live like 50, 60, 70, whatever it is, more years without him. Just live
depression
now.
and anxiety.
Yeah. Just live, just try every time to just bring yourself to the present and just try to live one moment at a time. That's how I've been dealing with it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you're talking about regaining control over your life.
Yeah.
And finding a way to do that, which there's no right way to
No.
do that, is there?
No.
There's a lot of different textbooks, but there's no one manual for this is how you cope.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it
dies.
hard, because you have to find out what works for you. And you know what this stuff might not work for many other people. But this is
but you're just sharing your experience and saying, and you're the one that has to live as you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
has to go about the world as that. And I don't understand it on the level that you do, but I can think about what it would feel like to feel weak and feel hopeless for such a prolonged period of time, or feel like just sick of feeling sorry for yourself when you're not, when you've been taught by your dad and the man you've made yourself is extremely capable and well-rounded and the kind of person who finds a way, you know. So you weren't going to not find a way, because like you said, if you make the choice, well, I'm still here and I still want to live, then why put yourself through more psychological distress than is necessary? And there'd be people that would say, oh, well, that wouldn't work for me, or that's wrong for this reason. But I think everyone has to, like you said, has to find out a way to navigate these things themselves and make that make sense in your own head so that you can keep going.
Exactly, man. Yeah, one of the biggest lessons I guess I learned from Dad, now that I think about it, was because, like, for the people that like don't know, like he was 6'4". He had like one of the best natural physiques. He had an IQ in like the top between 5 to 8%. He was good looking. He had all these opportunities thrown him, like playing NFL for the Crows. He was asked acting, modeling. Went back and studied, even with all the fibro, he went back and studied Bachelor of Health Science to try to get into medicine whilst doing full-time work and looking after Victoria and I with my mum and everything, and got straight HCs, you know. So from an outside perspective, like you could say like the bloke had it all, like, you know, but it didn't, he told me like that's not what made him happy. It's just that, I forgot how exactly he said it, but he said that if you always put others way before yourself, and you just, because that's what he was like, he was just so selfless and he just gave to everyone else. When he had the adversity that came at the end, he had nothing to fall back on, because Victoria and I were grown up, so his sense of responsibility of that wasn't there anymore. And he was doing a job that he didn't like, that didn't co-align with his values and his interests. And so when Mum left, there was nothing. Like, you can say, oh, you know, you've got the gym, but you know, the gym is only so much, man. It's not like it's going to be your entire life kind of thing. So he wished he had actually pursued his interests. And so I would say, like, for anyone else listening, for like one of the biggest things for resilience from what I've learned from him is like, pursue what you want to do. Because I think like if you're like doing something active that, you know, like what you're doing, man, like you enjoy doing this, like this is probably like really
something that's truly fulfilling.
Yeah, really fulfilling and stuff. If you enjoy it and you get enjoyment out of it, do that, because, you know, that's going to be at least something you can target your energy into, and it will provide a lot of resilience when, you know, shit does hit the fan in other things. If you think of your life like a pie or whatever, if it's like wrong here, at least you got like this
something
one
to hold on to. And for him, that was his family. But once that had, you know, you guys had grown up and then he separated, that was taken away, in a way, in his mind. And then the terrible pain he was in as well, you know, it's just would have been so overwhelming to try to live with all of those things. So I think anyone could have sympathy for that. Yeah. But he wouldn't have wanted that.
No.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how did you react when he did take his life?
I was really shocked, because 2 months before he did it, I had to move out and live with my mum because it was getting too hectic and I needed an extension on my thesis. And so I got the extension because of how hectic everything was. And I just needed to be able to, I was really behind on my study and I needed to just be able to focus on finishing it. And I said to him, I was like, you know, as soon as this is done, I'm going to do all your cooking, all your washing. All you're going to need to do is just go to work and come back. Because we ate the same stuff. So it was I would have done it anyway, even if he didn't, but like it wouldn't be much of an effort. Like it wasn't going to be hard for me to just do that for him after everything he's done for me. Like I'll do everything for him. But I said, you just got to hold on until I come back, and I would visit him once a week. So we did that, and I submitted my thesis on the Friday, but my missus and I, a year and a half ago, had booked a holiday for the Sunday. So I went and saw him so I submitted on the Friday, went and visited him on the Saturday, which is the last time I saw him, and I was going to be flying to Queensland on the Sunday. And, you know, we had this really like long conversation, because we always talked about like once I was finished, we'd start a YouTube channel, and it'd be like lifting, like father and son, but like mental health and that, like just, you know, because we'd always have a laugh and have good conversations and stuff. We just thought, yeah, we'll just make one or whatever, and like just joked about like, oh, imagine if, you know, one time you got on Joe Rogan or something like that. It'd be funny as like, because we used to like watch YouTube and stuff together and stuff. So it was, we were just fantasizing about that, like starting to train together. Because yeah, for the last 2 years as well, we didn't get to really train because I would work nights, and so it was all gonna, like I was gonna be moving to days, and it was all gonna work out so well. And so I was like so G'd up when I was going to Queensland. I was like, you know, like, because I've been worried about him the whole year. I was like, you know, when I come back, things are gonna start getting better. It's fucking awesome. Like, and I was like so like over the moon. But I went to Queensland, and also the 2 weeks before, because he was really dark the whole year, and he was like really known at the gym, and a lot of guys were coming up to me at the time saying, man, your dad's like seeming a lot better, like it's good, you know, he's cracking jokes and stuff again, like he's like old Steve again, you know. And I was like, yeah, he does look better, like he's actually going to the gym, you know, taking his, yeah. And I went to Queensland, and 3/4 of the way through, I'm at this like thing with my mum at this restaurant, and yeah, I get the call, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it. Like I was just in shock, because like my head was like if he'd done it 3 months earlier, like I wouldn't have been so shocked, man. But because he was so on the up, and everyone was saying that he was on the up, it just was so blindsiding. But I think in hindsight, looking back, I knew he was gonna do it now, because every time I'd visit him, he'd always walk out and stuff. And, you know, we didn't really say like father and son, like a lot of the time, like, you know, I love you and stuff like that. But he gave me a big hug, and not the last time I saw him, but a few times before, he said, you know, I love you. And I think he was crying when he said, he's like, I'm sorry for, you know, yelling and, you know, being harsh when I was younger and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, don't worry about it, man. Like, it's made me better for it anyway. Like, it's fine. And I think he was thinking about doing it then he didn't, umming and ahhing. And my sister said the same thing when she would visit, like, he would be like walking her out and just lingering there kind of thing. So I think like he just picked like, you know what, when we was in Queensland, I'll do it. That way he doesn't need to be, yeah, maybe he was thinking that I didn't have to be the one to find him, or Victoria. Unfortunately, like my uncle found him, and it's just not what you want to find, man. And yeah, so it's and that's been like really tough. And so
you felt like it was all about to be better though.
Yeah, which is like why I've just still haven't, like I'm still in I'd say probably like, you know how they say that you got those like those stages of grieving, like it's not like it's like a linear progression. Like I come up to acceptance, and I'm still in denial though most of the time, man, because I think like I still can't comprehend it. Like it's just, yeah, most of the time like you just start fantasizing about like, oh, you know, like how do you make a time machine?
Yeah.
Because I get especially it, after the dreams and stuff, it's like, yeah.
I think it's something that I think a big part of it is incomprehensible to a degree. Like I don't think, having lost someone to suicide as well, I don't think, and that was years ago now, that you can get to a point where I don't think I can, like, maybe it's because you can't fully understand every part of it, because they are the only people that have that ultimate answer within themselves, and you drive yourself mad trying to work it out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like you might ever be able to fully comprehend it. And I think that's partly because of the love you have for that person. And you also can't comprehend that they're not ever going to be in your life physically again. that part of it as well. So.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one. Yeah.
How long has it taken for you to feel like yourself again?
To be honest, man, I still don't feel like 100% myself. Like I'm not. Like I said, man, I feel real bad because I've been overwhelmed with like the love and support from everyone trying to reach out and stuff, but I haven't been a very good person, I guess, like because I haven't taken anyone up on their offer and I've kind of actively avoided socializing. So because I haven't been myself, I finished my uni on last week and like I spoke with my psychologist who's very good and he said, you know, like in good time you can start to socialize with people like just in short bouts and stuff like that. It would be better for you. And so I did that like last night. That felt nice. I saw like one of my best mates that I haven't seen for quite a few months and stuff. Other times I'll just catch up with like people at the gym because that was easy because you know you keep the conversations light and stuff like that. So that's been okay and that's been nice. But yeah, in terms of actual catching up, I haven't done a whole lot of that this year, only like a handful of times.
But you don't need to feel any guilt over that, man.
No, I know, but I just feel bad. But I would say like I wish I did do it more. I think it's more helpful than it would be more helpful. So
like less time alone.
Yeah, and I think it would make me more similar to myself.
Because you're quite an outgoing person.
Yeah.
Sort of before this.
Well, before this, I was. This year, I'd say I'd probably be one of the biggest introverts ever. But
I guess suppose part of you feeling more like yourself would be acting more like you did before this happened.
Yeah, definitely.
But why have you withdrawn?
Because I fell flat, like so much. It was like with like grieving and stuff. I just feel
just drained.
I just feel drained, and I feel like I would have to really try to converse. I think because I'm used to I'm normally like my friends like the really energetic one, like on almost too energetic. Yeah. And from going from that to this, it's like I couldn't be that, but even trying to just be like normal all the time I found it a lot of effort, man.
Just completely emotionally drained. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, just such a devastating thing to live with, and then still the pressure of doing your studies and everything else. I can understand that, you know, feeling like, well, I can't be me anyway, and I don't have anything left to give to be able to go out and be this social person. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be hitting the nail on the head.
So where do you feel like you're at with that now?
I've just started to just trying to put into place like a lot of things that make me happy, to make things, I guess, a little bit less shit, and which is good because I can I can see like, you know, that like a lot of other people have a lot worse problems and they've still gotten out of it. And you know, it's as bad as it is to say, like thankfully for me, it's a bit of a selfish thing to say, but I've had a few other of my mates' dads commit suicide, and I have seen, and they're like older than me, and I've seen them like, you know, build a business and a family, and they're happy now, and that's been really motivational for me, like to see that, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel and that you can still, you know, live a good life. So I've been trying to like put, you know, taking bits of advice from them and what helped them, and, you know, things like that, and, you know, when it gets better and don't expect too much, and, you know, all of that stuff. And it's been really insightful for me to, you know, to have that. And so that's helped me, I guess, come back more to myself a little bit as well, which I've been very, very grateful that I've been surrounded with people with, you know, similar experience that I can relate to and stuff like that.
And what's your goal with psychology?
I want to become a clinical psychologist, and I would like to specialize in suicide, hopefully helping others that are thinking about doing it, but also helping others that have experienced like a loved one go and that can't really comprehend it. I'd really like to, you know, once I work out once I've fixed myself and I can, you know, I know like my story, I guess, won't be like transparent for everyone else, but, you know, just be able to be there for them and you know, tell them that it's going to be okay. That would be a really nice and rewarding career, I think. Yeah.
And then having learned what you learned from your dad, but then also seeing what he regretted in life, how has that impacted the man you want to be and what you want to make your life about?
I think like his selflessness I want to take on board, but like expand it to like the wider community, I would say. I'd like to, because like all the boys, like if they'd have a problem or something, they would always ask Dad. He was very good with advice. All his friends would go to him for advice as well. He just wasn't good at following his own advice. I guess I'd like to do that on a large scale, but help anyone that is experiencing this and just help them build resilience, basically. I feel like, with resilience, whether it's mental or physical, it doesn't really matter. Like just little bits at a time. I just want to help people very simply just build resilience and live the best life that they can possibly with the cards that they've been dealt. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that story, bro. Because when I was preparing for it, even writing the questions and reading your eulogy and thinking about it, I thought, man, it must have been hard to get through that eulogy, and then to be in your position talking to me about this today and to get through it so articulately and thoughtfully like you did there. I think that takes incredible strength in itself, as the past year has too. And the fact that you've had to get through it in whatever way you needed to get through it is just completely understandable, and you need to forgive yourself if you feel any kind of guilt over that. And the people who love you understand that and want to be there for you, and I've got no doubt that you will feel 100% like yourself again in the future, and you'll carry on all the best things about your dad, and then you'll probably be able to adjust in certain areas where he ultimately felt like he would have made different decisions, you know. So I know he was tremendously proud of you, and he should be, and everyone who's in your life is, man. So just
means a lot. Thanks, bro.
And you'll make a fantastic psychologist one day soon as well. And
thanks, man.
So thanks, bro. It's really it's a beautiful thing to be able to speak about, and it's been so tough. So just proud of you as well, man.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, dude.
Appreciate it.
Cool. That's it for this episode. Thanks to our local business supporters, Herd Financial and First National Real Estate. Making these podcasts isn't cheap, and we can't do it alone. If you'd like to become a supporter, please send an email to callum@youngbloodmedia.com.au. If you're getting some value out of the show, please give us a quick rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps us out. You can watch every episode in studio quality video on Spotify and our YouTube channel, Youngblood Men's Mental Health. We go by the same name on Instagram and Facebook, and follow Youngblood Mental Health on TikTok. Subscribe to our e-news through our website, youngbloodmedia.com.au, and most importantly, share this podcast with someone who needs to hear it. We're all in this together. Catch you next time.